Hey everybody, it's Avi Tenenbaum. I know all the experts say to make the video this way, but I love making the video this way. What could you do? That's just my pet peeve and it's my vice, so bear with me. If you still like me after that, stick around, subscribe, hit the like button, write me a comment. In case you don't know who I am, Avi Tenenbaum. Look at my website, psychotraumaunit.com. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm a disaster expert. I have a background in mental health, counseling, emergency medicine, law enforcement, and disaster management. And I love taking all the different disciplines, putting it together, and teaching people how to get through crisis, how to overcome adversity, how to develop resilience. And I teach psychological first aid around the world. Let me tell you a story now about something really interesting I experienced yesterday and a lesson that comes out of it. And I will probably put some footage of this story the way it happened yesterday on my social media, so pay attention, especially on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to be putting maybe some clips of that later. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Okay, so without getting too much into the details, I am part of a certain organization of disaster experts that we collaborate with people around the world to make people better during crisis, and we lend our expertise out and we do all sorts of collaborations and see how we can be useful and make the world a better place. Sounds good, right? So if that wasn't general enough, we started possibly collaborating with a certain tactical training company. And what that basically means, in case you're not familiar, is there's all sorts of law enforcement people in the world and militaries in the world. And those men and women whose job it is to keep people safe by running into danger, getting into those gunfights, going to battle to create freedom and safety, they need a way to practice. And we don't really know how they're going to react and show up during war because they're just in training. They've never been in war before. Maybe they're a peacetime professional soldier that for 5 years they've been in the army, but they've never been in a single gunfight. And so until a person gets experience extensively in the field and survives, it's really hard to know how people are going to show up to war and how they're going to react. Are they going to be efficient, professional? Is the learning that we taught them going to come out of them? Are they going to cower in fear, faint? What are they going to do? And so there are companies in the world and various methods about how to simulate war and combat as much as possible. And so by doing that, you are going to evoke from the people doing the training on a physiological level, on an emotional level, on a social level, psychological level, all of those, maybe other realms too, and see just how they react. You'll see how a commander leads his troops in the scenario. You'll see how a person who beat his chest the whole time and said he was God's gift to mankind, how he actually shows up in a combat simulator situation. Is he as good as he says he is or not? And so on and so forth. Okay, so it's very important to do these things. Unfortunately, as you and I probably can imagine, most organizations, companies, governments don't spend enough time and money on training. And so the people that are involved in saving your lives, that you pay your tax money to the government to hire them to keep you safe, they actually aren't as good as they could be because generally speaking, they're not doing these trainings, and they're certainly not doing them frequently unless you have a very unique country or a very unique police commander or army commander or a situation. Okay, or good donors and good funding, right? Okay, so listen and hear me out. So yesterday, I had to put on VR goggles and hold a rifle that is linked to the VR system. I've never done this before. Just to give you a background of my gun capabilities, I've been carrying a gun for many years for defense, and I'm a first responder, and I have experience in law enforcement. I'm trained on an M4 patrol rifle, and I know how to use iron sights and a red dot sight, and I've never been some sort of special soldier, special operator, a SWAT member. I do not have any special training in these things, not yet at least. I've done a lot of very rudimentary and basic training, but never this type of stuff, never what's called CQB or closed quarters combat, room clearing, hostage situations. that's for the elite. It's not for regular people. I certainly never merited to learn those things as much as I know about guns and have handled guns and carry guns, carry one every day, carry one and drive a police car with one. Still, this is special stuff that I'm referring to in this video. So in case you didn't know that, now you have some context about that. So I had to meet this tactical VR training company because I had to experience the combat simulator that they have so that I can then work with them on a project to help the soldiers and special law enforcement units that use this training method. Because how can I collaborate with them to help those soldiers in a certain mental health project if I don't even know what it's like that they train in this method? So I had to be able to experience feeling war like the way they expose these people to war, and then I can kind of imagine what these men and women go through when they do the simulator, and then I can tailor our mental health program and recommendations to this company. Let's say that that's the basic idea, okay? So I show up to a place not far from the Gaza border, actually, and I put on VR goggles of this company. I've never done this before, okay? So I put on these goggles, they strap them on, they make sure it fits right, and it's covering your whole face. And it's linked to a computer, and it's also attached to a rifle. Now, they give you a real M4 rifle where the middle of it has been demilitarized, the bolt has been removed, and a special sensor and piece has been attached in the place of the bolt and also on top of the red dot optic sight. And basically, they turn on this set of glasses, this VR glasses, and you see what looks like a virtual reality world. Kind of imagine the Matrix movie and Neo being in that like clean blank slate place. Remember, Neo was in these like transitional spaces in that movie. So you're standing in a big real room, but you thought the room was a certain way, but then the glasses transport a certain set of circumstances into the room you're in. Imagine you're in a gymnasium, you're in your basement, you're in a wedding hall, and depending on what they set the glasses to do, that wedding hall turns into a combat zone, turns into a school shooting, turns into a flood and tsunami, and you have to learn how to do emergency rescue and all sorts of interesting scenarios, okay? So that's the idea. So you start off in this transitional world where they haven't yet given you the scenario of the training, but the walls of the real room that you're in have been transplanted with these like nets, these red and blue fictitious walls, and you want to touch them because they look real, but they're not real. But it's kind of like the fake virtual reality borders that kind of go around the walls of the room that you're in, okay? And this is a way for you to know not to smash into the wall, right? So let's say there's a real concrete wall 5 meters from where I'm standing. So before that, there's this like meshwork blue wall of this like crisscross blue lines or red lines, and that basically says don't go here. This is the end of where you're meant to go. So pretty cool. Even if it was just seeing that, that's cool. Then they give me this rifle, and like I said, I've been trained in the M4 rifle. I'm pretty familiar with it, carried it, ran with it. Never been in a gunfight with it yet. I'm still a young guy. I'm 39 years old. And they turn on the glasses and they say, you are now going to be alone in a certain environment filled with terrorists. You're going to be greatly outnumbered. Good luck. And this is their orientation to this idea. And before you know it, the walls turn gray and the floor turns brown, and it looks as if you are inside I don't know if it's a warehouse or maybe it's some sort of terrorist headquarters, but it's very narrow. In other words, there's a fictitious wall here and a fictitious wall here and furniture here, and you really feel like you're in a confined space. And you're really like moving your rifle around without trying to bang into these walls. And the walls look really real. Like you would try to lean on these walls. That's how real they look. There are chairs that are so convincing looking. You would want to sit on this chair if you didn't remember that this is not real. It's all just projected, and your brain receives this information and interprets it as if there's an actual, as if there's an actual chair there. So first of all, just really cool. Now, there are terrorists running around this structure. I have this rifle. This is not a video game with unlimited ammo. You have a limited amount of ammo, and I think they gave us 40 rounds, which would basically translate into a mag and a third, because here in the patrol rifles that we use, so we have 30 round mags, right? So 40 bullets, okay. And they put into the mag of this M4 CO2. And so every time you pull the trigger, there's kickback, there's reta, there's a good word for that in English, but I'm forgetting my English actually. Right? So the gun is shaking and reacting as if you fired a round. If you've ever fired a real rifle or pistol, it makes a loud noise and it shakes, right? And so this sort of simulates that. It makes a noise, it shakes because it releases gas like an air gun would, right? Like those air guns I used to play around with back in Denver, Colorado when I was 15, 16 years old, causing a lot of trouble. Anyway, so you're in this confined space and you start to clear the different rooms, even if you're not trained in it. And terrorists, of course, are jumping out of everywhere, and you're trying to take cover and shoot back and that type of thing. So they put you in this situation where you're totally by yourself. You are surrounded by all these bad guys. They're shooting at you, and you have to shoot and kill them with shots that actually are life-threatening. And if you just shoot them like in their finger 5 times, they're going to keep shooting at you. So you really have to end the threat. You have to put shots on target. And while you're doing all this, the computer is gathering this information, turning it into statistics, and saving it in the database of the computer. And if you do this with a partner, then it's saving the data of both of you in the scenario and comparing the data of both of you to each other, which is really important, and we'll get to that soon. Anyway, you'll hear why I'm telling you all of this. First of all, because it's really interesting, but second of all, because I have a really neat story and life lesson for you out of all this. So bear with me. So we do this scenario, and a bunch of terrorists jump out of everywhere and kill me, and it doesn't take too long, and I'm dead. Okay, fine. Then once I kind of got the feel and the hang of the virtual world and how to move around and the blue walls and the red walls and kind of figuring out how to interact in that world, because it isn't a real world at the end of the day. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Then they invite a colleague of mine who's a mental health professional but has no experience in weaponry, in policing, in soldiering. They've never held a gun before in their life. They give her a rifle. She's wearing 5-inch heels and a business suit. And she's holding the rifle from her waist. She doesn't even know how to, put it over here and get into that sight. And she doesn't even know how to hold the gun. Okay, so 0 experience. And they say, okay, now we're going to put Avi and this partner together in a school shooting scenario. The case is, a bunch of kids have been killed. There's a bunch of terrorists. A bunch of people are wounded. It's going on right now. There's no time to talk. There's no time to plan. Go in and take care of business. Boom, starts. By the way, they take your gun away and weapons away before you start so that you don't draw your real pistol in the middle of a virtual gunfight. So they took my gun away and my mags, and he took my gun and he said, "Is that it?" I said, "Nope." I gave him another magazine. He said, "Is that it?" "Nope." Gave him a second magazine. "Is that it?" "Nope." Third magazine. "Is that it?" "Nope." I gave him a fourth magazine, and the gun instructor was like, "You carry 4 magazines on you every day?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." "Okay, I'm a Boy Scout." So they take your weapons away. Anyways, this instructor says, okay, we're starting. It started. It's happening now. You're in the situation. They give the command, and literally in the glasses, you see a school, and there's a hallway, and there's dead people on the floor, and you hear shots, and you hear people yelling and vying for your attention and saying, please help me, I'm wounded, and the terrorist is over here, I need your help. And it's so disorienting and it's so confusing. If it would only be one terrorist, it would be bad enough. If it would be 5 terrorists, but I would have 10 SWAT guys, we can work something out. I have a person that doesn't even know how to hold a rifle, and myself who has the most rudimentary, basic level of training coming out of policing and being a civilian. And I have to deal with multiple bad guys. There's tons of people pulling us in every direction, and it's so disorienting and confusing. And you instinctively really want to help the people that are bleeding out and dying because you're a good person. You want to help a child who's shot. But the thing is, you can't stop, because if you stop, you're just going to get killed. They're anyways going to die. You didn't save anybody else. The medical personnel can't get and save these people. So you're not doing anybody a favor by stopping and treating that person. So you have to turn off your instincts. You have to keep focused, keep going, and take care of business. Anyways, I might post a video of this round that I'm describing right now, which is round 2 basically, on my social media, so check that out. But anyways, the colleague that I'm with is just walking around as if it's a regular day, shooting from the hip like in some cheap cowboy movie. And none of the terrorists are really being killed in that way, obviously. And I'm trying to figure out where the terrorists are. I don't have a methodical way of doing this. I'm getting distracted. And then I suspect there's a guy in a certain room, and I pie the corner, and I see he's there, and I quickly get from standing down to a crouching position, and I start firing upon him, but then he also fires upon me, and I'm dead. End of the scenario number 2, and that's the video that I probably will post, just to make sure I have permission from the people involved. That's what happens, okay? So, dead, right? Now, to my happiness, I didn't faint. I didn't poop in my pants. I wasn't afraid. They say that sometimes when even tier 1 operators who are trained as expert fighters do this scenario, they faint. Doesn't happen to most people, obviously, but it happens. And so that's exactly the point, is you don't know how you're going to show up in a situation until you're in a situation that evokes those things from you. Like maybe in a different video, I'll talk about my reaction to when Iran sent 350 ballistic missiles and UAVs at me and my family in my country. It evoked in my body a certain reaction, a physiological reaction. So that'll be for a different video. But here I was super comfortable. I was cool, calm, and collected. Shoot, move, communicate. But tactically, I had zero plan. I had zero help, and I get killed. Okay, that is round 2. For round 3, they say, okay, now with the same partner that has zero training and doesn't even know how to hold their gun, you are allowed to have 30 seconds to make a plan. Why 30 seconds? Because when an unexpected crisis happens, at most you're going to have 30 seconds to converse with somebody else, and then you got to get to work. I said, wow, that is so true. And I've been in so many crises. That's absolutely true. Okay. So I go to the business woman, suit lady in the heels who's never held a gun before, and I say, here's the plan. I'm more experienced than you, so I'm going to lead. I'm going to take the right side of this hallway, and you're going to take the left side of this hallway. We're going to go from one end of the hallway to the other end, methodically checking room, every room one at a time, clearing the rooms. I'm going to clear the rooms on the right, and you are going to clear the rooms on the left. If you need help and I'm able to, I will come assist you. This is what we're doing. We're going to be able to do this, and we're going to get to the other side. Okay? Let's go. Suddenly, the sirens go off and the people are yelling and screaming again, and the disorientation and the chaos and the conflicts are coming again, the whole same thing. But even more than ever, we are focused because we made a 30-second plan that's organizing our efforts. And so she is still shooting from the hip like a cowboy in 5-inch heels and a business suit on the left side of the hallway. She looked like, one of those detectives in in one of these police thriller movies. And I am wearing jeans and tactical boots. I got my pistol holster on me and green military uniform, so I look a little bit more the part, and I'm taking the rooms to the right. Now what's really cool is when you have a partner in this simulator, so the computer puts onto their body a full kit and uniform. So I'm looking at this woman, and she's no longer wearing a business suit. She looks kitted out like a SWAT member. She's got a tactical helmet. She's got tactical goggles. She's got a tactical, ceramic vest with ammo pouches and gear, tactical pants, boots. And I thought that was so cool that the computer puts that on the person standing next to you. Like, just amazing, this technology. Anyways, so we start doing our plan. We're clearing room 1. We're successful. Clear room 2. And in each room, we find a terrorist. We're playing the corners. I'm trying to, do the CQB to the best that I can. I've done some online courses on it. I'm a YouTube wannabe, but I've never been professionally trained in CQB. I'm looking forward to doing it in the next 3 or 4 months. I think I'm actually going to be eligible to do certain training. I've been working on that for a long time. But anyways, we're pieing those corners. We're killing the terrorists, and it's working. So we clear room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4 on both sides of the hallway. So we cleared already 7 rooms together. Pretty impressive. And then in the 8th room, my room 7 was, I think, free of bad guys. But the corresponding room on her side in room 8 had bad guys in there. And so I was able to slip next to her, off to the side, a little bit under her, to make sure that we don't have any friendly fire, and to give her an assist and kill that guy too. And then we keep moving down the hallway, and suddenly 2 bad guys come out of the end of the hallway, point their barrels down the hallway, kill us, and the scenario is over. Okay? It was a really cool experience. The lesson that I learned from this was that if you're given even only 30 seconds during a life and death situation to make a plan, even a 30-second mediocre plan will make you operate 10 times better and save lives. I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was unbelievable. And this type of learning is experiential learning. It's not just me getting up there and saying this story in this sort of video format and saying, one time and it was really cool. I felt it. Experiential learning, in my opinion, is the highest form of wisdom because your whole body is involved in the learning. Your memory is involved in the learning. It gets into your muscles. It's a different level. It's a different level. It's, imagine reading a book about swimming versus getting in a pool and swimming, right? That's why a lot of people are upset at, business professors that never ran a business, right? You need that experiential knowledge, right? And that's exactly what this technology comes to do. So I've done simunition training before. I would say this was much better than simunition. It was so cool. And you start to gain some familiarity of the next best thing as close to a school shooting or running around in a terrorist compound alone as you can possibly find without the real thing. You won't get killed if you mess up, but you will be able to kind of get that familiarity. If a guy jumps out at you in the VR, you'll jump because he jumped out at you, and you'll move out of the way, and so your body is invested in this to the degree that it feels that it's real. And it's pretty impressive, okay? Getting that experience was solid. If we were only allowed to do it once, we would have not gotten the full benefit. We were able to do it twice as a team and compare our performance. And that's amazing, because when you do anything in life and then you get to redo it a second time, you're able to learn the mistakes of time number one and then, adapt and readjust in attempt number two and do better. And that's the idea of having feedback loops and learning about how you performed in something, noticing and understanding how you did, and then doing it better. The computer said in round 2 that I got 40 rounds off, and, 45 rounds off. They said that we had a 40 rounds capacity, but I guess it's 45. I got 45 rounds off, and I hit 60% of the time. Now, I haven't looked at the FBI statistics and stuff recently, and this wasn't a real encounter. It was a simulated encounter. But according to these guys, I did pretty good relative, and especially relative to the low level of training that I have. So that was awesome. And I didn't faint, and I didn't make in my pants, so that was pretty good. Because you really don't know how you're going to interact in a life and death situation. And I still don't know to a certain degree, obviously, let's be honest. But on this level, I know something. I know a tad. And it builds confidence, overall cool experience, and you're able to do biofeedback with this. You're able to help young soldiers and law enforcement learn about themselves. And I had such a fun, interesting conversation with my colleague, she's a social worker, about, imagine the ACE score, right? Because a lot of law enforcement and military are people who went through some sort of abuse, physical abuse, rape, and things like this. And that's, in a certain sinister, odd way, what prepares them to be involved in making the world a better place, having that comfortability of being in danger because they were in danger in the past. They were hurt in the past. They want to make a difference. They want to set things right. And so you find a lot of those types of people in these professions. And the flip side problem with that is that a lot of times people that have PTSD, complex PTSD, you don't know, with their cortisol out of whack and their nervous system out of whack, you don't know the way that they're going to react during crisis. There are studies that say to look at the baseline level of calmness of a person, and you can predict from that how they will do in crisis. And so if you're always very extra anxious and have a very hard time regulating your fear and panic, and you're always kind of nervous on a good day when you miss your bus, you probably are going to be the same person except 50 times worse in a crisis. If you're cool as a cucumber when you miss your bus, or your phone falls in the lake and you can't get it back, then probably you'll be cool as a cucumber in crisis. And so there's a lot of those interesting studies, correlations, and speculations. Anyways, it was a super cool experience. And think about how a lot of people think that resilience has to do with, like, once somebody goes through something hard to bounce back from it. But the truth is that disaster and resilience experts like myself know that one of the main focuses of resilience training should be beforehand. You should be able to prepare yourself to become the type of person that exposes yourself voluntarily to challenging things, to risk, to scary things. And with your willingness, with your voluntary willingness to put yourself in those situations and gain that familiarity, you will see that you have what it takes, and you will learn how you react and interact during crisis. You'll see your shortcomings, you'll see where you need to improve, you'll see your strengths, and you'll prepare, and you'll do this as much as you can before an October 7th happens, before a Uvalde school shooting happens, before whatever the scenario is. And then that's how you build resilience. And we'll just end with this. When you develop yourself as a resilient person before the real dangerous thing comes, then you will be that person that walks into that crisis. But if you're a person that always stays in your comfort zone and never takes any risks and never exposes yourself to anything that's uncomfortable and never tests the waters of anything and never gets to learn about how you fail and what you can improve and never learns how to regulate your fear and your emotions and never gets to think about dying and what's worth living for, what's worth dying for, what's worth sacrificing for. If you don't work on those things beforehand, then I'm pretty sure it's going to be challenging for somebody like that during a crisis. They may not survive, and if they survive, they may not be able to help others, especially if they're paid to do that and trained to do that. And that's a really harsh thing to live with. I was speaking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about certain people who were given a certain task in a certain military to get out there and deal with a certain threat. And they were too afraid and they didn't. Now, I'm not blaming them and I'm not judging them. I hope to never be in that situation. And maybe I would do the same thing. I don't know. But for the sake of example, I'm just saying those people now have survivor's guilt because, you know, when somebody gets in a gunfight and tries to defend their neighborhood or their country and people die, maybe you can say you did your best. Maybe you can retrace your steps with a PTSD expert, a psychologist, a social worker, a traumatologist, and you can say, you know, here's what you did. You got your gun, you got on the radio, you got out there, you did what you had to do, you did the best that you can, and you can kind of learn just how resilient and effective you were and encode your memories in a accurate way, right? But if you're the guy that was so afraid you didn't even leave your house, you locked yourself at home, and you just cowered under your bed with your hands in your head like this, it's challenging to live with yourself like that afterwards because you really don't know. Maybe people did die because of you. Now, I'm not saying this to make anybody feel bad. The people that should be in these professions are the ones that are able to withstand this pressure. And the people that shouldn't be involved in these jobs are the people that can't. And that's exactly the point of a simulator, to separate those from those. And if you can't do it, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Maybe you can help people out in a different way, even in law enforcement, even in the military. There are so many ways to help people, and these organizations have so many dynamic roles. So it's okay. There's room for everyone. Anyhow, I thought it was a cool experience. The 30-second plan was amazing. By the way, it's true even in psychology. I've heard this from major famous psychologists, including Dr. Jordan Peterson. We get so hung up on what the plan should be sometimes and what method we should use and this type of thing. And I'm sure there's some difference between this method and that method and the third method and all that. We can get into a big discussion. I can make a big video about this. But at the end of the day, at least have a plan and let the plan be effective enough to organize your intentions and your behaviors. And if you can have a plan that organizes you well enough for whatever you're encountering, you're way more likely to succeed, including me, a lowly trained, run-of-the-mill volunteer in the law enforcement and gun owner with a person in a business suit and high heels who shoots from the hip. We were able to clean 4 rooms full of terrorists and get down that hallway till the end when we got killed and had our virtual demise. And it was amazing to see the 30-second plan got us that far, made us that effective, saved those lives. And of course, in a real life situation, I don't know if you'd want to go and face off 5 people by yourself with 1.5 people and no training. If that's what you have to do and all you have, then that's what you have to do and all you have. And if you're going to die, but you did the best you can, then that's a good reason to die and you did the best you can. But we should have peace and we should be safe. And I hope you enjoyed this video. The 30-second lesson for me was just an incredible experience to have. Make those plans, take those pauses in the middle of what you're doing, stop, think about what you need to do, make that 30-second plan, keep going, be successful, be safe. See you guys later. If you like this, hit the like, subscribe, and never miss a video. Bye-bye.